Hey, c'est Frankie de Alankyy pour la partie 4 de Stanley Parable. On y va!
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Oh là là, il y a du papier partout! Du papier partout! Quel mot a été au mauvais Partie?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ouais!
Ah, c'est impossible de faire la même fin 2 fois.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
All right, here we go. Room closet. Going for
Oh no, no, not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Aha. Ah. Oh.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. He thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Oh.
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. Could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Fucking fuck.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Cool. Never. Yeah. Okay.
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
Où ça? Eh? Painting or a photo?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. What was it about this room that called so deeply and so personally to Stanley? Its grace? Its subtle charm? No. Stanley knew it was something deeper, something darker.
Hey.
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
Eh?
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
J'ai fait le contraire, je vais y aller.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Je vais descendre. Continuez.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Vraiment pas, je l'ouvre. Oh, laisse-moi voir ça.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Upstairs. On retourne au bureau. Big boss. Ah, là, je peux y aller. Oh. Money in the morning. Money in the evening. Money for breakfast. Money Chris. Ok, je peux y aller, mais je peux rien faire ici. minute. Business strategy. Un gun sur la tête d'un panda, c'est bien violent pour rien. Oh. Holy crap. Ça marche. Hein? Je suis tanné en tabarnak. Ouais donc. Recommendation. Ça va faire? Je vais t'ouvrir sur une liste dedans. Non, 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 non. Ah. Pas sérieux? Là? Non. Ok, fuck that. Fuck that, j'ai fait ça pour rien.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Oui!
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Et encore une fois. Il y a une autre affaire que j'aurais pu faire. En tout cas, on va checker. Hein. Ouais, ça va pas être encore la même fin.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Escape.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Oh, oui. Oh, bon.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Non, je préfère mourir.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Yes, enfin, je peux mourir.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
What? Merci. Femelle Stanley Parable?
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Je sais pas.
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Oh. Sérieux, toi? Attends, ça c'est vraiment... Ok, c'est comment que c'est fait. On commence. Ouais, c'est tout le chemin. Deux portes. This. Ok. Button sound. Okay. Selection of the sound used throughout the game when buttons are pressed. Each sound is a mix of a keyboard stroke and a synthesized tone. Filing cabinet. Chacun que je paye. Hein? Credits. Yeah! Je sais pas où elle est. Okay, boss office. E. Office lock. A. Office lounge. Kevin writing the voice of the narrator. Okay. Here. Please. Here. Ah ouais. Aïe aïe. C'est ça? Vite là, m'a coupé des bouts dans le PDK. Freedom Ending. This was the very first incarnation of the Freedom Ending in the game's alpha. Freedom Ending. In the beta. Countdown. Early version. Okay. Qu'est-ce que ça? On off. Saber là. Ça. Je sais même pas ce que je fais. Genre 3 fois le même bureau mais placé différemment. Ça finit comme ça. 2011, 2012, 2013. C'est it? Ok.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Okay. Off.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another?
Hmm?
No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time
Ah, je suis mort. Ok. Wit? C'est ce qu'elle dit? Non, je peux pas sauvegarder. Ah, je pense que j'ai fait toutes les fins.
En tant que tel, il t'en manque quelque chose comme 12.
Fait que merci d'avoir regardé la dernière partie de Stanley Parable. Fait que on se revoit dans la prochaine série. Ça a été très court, j'ai fait ça en une soirée. Fait que je vais vous publier ça en temps et lieu. Fait que merci d'avoir regardé. On se revoit dans les prochaines séries qui s'en viennent. Avec cette petite merveille-là.